A little tuck here, a little lift here. What's the harm in just a couple of touches if you have the money to do so? Jayne is probably one of the best examples when enough is enough. The fact that she is now banned in Australia from getting any work done on herself is crazy. Overall, she has spent nearly $200,000 on plastic surgery, with her overall aim of becoming a living Barbie doll. These are including, but not limited to, and I quote, 5 frontal augmentations, butt implants, 6 nose jobs, and endless rounds of Botox and filler. I can't imagine how that must all feel, or at the very least, can you feel anything at all? It is stated by her though that during the time she worked as a nurse, she was struggling immensely with finding a balance between her personal life and her career, saying, "I feel as though I don't have the time or the cognitive capacity to think about anything else other than being a nurse and furthering my career in the medical industry. I'm like a robot. Someone help me." Could all these surgeries possibly be a way for her to gain control of her life? As I'm literally writing this and continuing to read the article, she speaks out in a 2020 interview saying these surgeries give her a sense of empowerment. Boom. You're trapped in one thing the majority of your prime, you're gonna want out in some way or another. And for some, it's surgery. Another runner-up who's in it for the aesthetics of it all is Pixee Fox, who appeared on the reality show Botched for a second time to show the doctors her completion of 200 plastic surgery procedures. Her goal is to end up looking like a living cartoon, similarly to Jayne and her inspiration for Jessica Rabbit. Fox states, "Since last time I was here, I had more than 20 plastic surgery procedures for my quest to look like a living cartoon. Surgeries that I know Dr. Nassif and Dr. Dubrow would never ever perform on me. This time, maybe, they can try to open up and see a little bit of my vision of my life." If they weren't comfortable with performing those on you, then it was probably for a very good reason. Just in the last year, I have been all over the world. I've been to Iran, I've been to India, I've been to Istanbul, I've been to Korea, I've been in Dubai, I've been in Sweden, I've been all around America. Anything you can or can't think of plastic surgery, I've done it, she proclaims. I've had more than 200 plastic surgery procedures. So I'm the only girl in the world to do an eyelash transplant with hair from my private places. That's insane. How do you even come up with the thought of that? I mean, brilliant, I guess? She's even had some of her ribs removed to appear curvier with a smaller waist. I think I'm gonna tune into the showing of the next season, guys. Who's down for a watch party? Amanda Lopez, a transgender American model and performance artist, has allegedly a more depressing history when it comes to why she chose to undergo the numerous amounts of surgery. Kinu Valenti, a close friend of almost 3 decades at this point, states that Amanda is obsessive over these procedures because she is constantly feeling that she isn't feminine enough, despite looking gorgeous as a woman before the excessive overload of injections and surgeries. A trans activist named Denise Norris states, "The only way we can judge Amanda is through the eyes of 1987. And she's correct. It was an extremely difficult and different time for the LGBT community. Amanda claims she was only really concerned with looking pretty. "I didn't know anything else, really." I do applaud the fact that Amanda does not hide this info and is extremely open about the procedures. These include a smaller nose, her behind injected with silicone, a lifted forehead, and a lowered hairline. Regularly as well, she would get her cheeks filled and her chest being redone and enhanced 3 times now. She is inspired by Marilyn Monroe and the iconic Jessica Rabbit appearance as well. I love Rocky. Probably my all-time favorite underdog story, but I'm not sure how I'm vibing with both his mother and himself on their surgical procedures. I personally thought Stallone was extremely handsome back in the 80s and 90s. Not saying that he isn't anymore, a silver fox, but it's clear that he's not really fooling anyone with that tight smile. Earlier in his career, he denied these claims, which I'm not surprised because, correct me if I'm wrong, surgery back then was more of on the hush-hush, whereas now people seem to be more open and accepting of it, for the most part. His fans assumed Stallone had done a facelift due to a scar appearing by his left ear in 1992, but he quickly tries to flip the narrative on them and goes, "People see this scar and think I've had a facelift. They don't notice that I don't have a scar over here by my right ear. What do they think? That I can only afford to have half of it done?" Later on in the years though, he did finally admit to having work done on his face, to help with some nerve damage he had suffered from childhood. Dr. Richard Westry, a plastic surgeon who pointed out his face has changed, and more than likely had gone under dozens of procedures. He made a guess about the fillers in his face as well. Some claim his face was even swollen at times, which might have been a side effect from the fillers. It also looks like he's had his upper lids done, which is not unusual for middle-aged men, states Westry. Jackie, however, was much more open about her procedures that she had. "I'm all for everything to make it, you, look good. Anything and everything," she told the Daily Mail. "I've had chemical peels, I've had 3 of those and about 50 injections. No Botox. I don't need that. What I want Botox wouldn't help. I don't have wrinkles in my forehead. I genetically don't have that. That's something I can be thankful for. Lucky, I get them all the time, especially when I speak." While at the same time she was proud at the work and cosmetics she had accomplished on herself, a part of her does regret sometimes of having gone under so many. "Actually, I've got too much. I look like I've got a mouthful of nuts. It's Juvederm, a cosmetic filler. Too much of it. I feel as though I look like a chipmunk." Reading Tara Reid's story definitely makes me want to open my heart out to her. Because as I'm also not against people going through these surgical procedures, they are taking the chance of it going extremely wrong. It first started with Tara Reid originally wanting a specific size for her frontal operation, but was given something entirely different. She was told by the surgeon that it would eventually get better, but it never did. And sadly, during a wardrobe mishap at one of Diddy's parties in 2004, there it is, showing to the world how botched the surgery actually was. This incident was another blow to her career, as she even begged the photographers not to post it anywhere. "I was smiling like a fool and people were snapping away. When I realized it, I cried and begged the photographers not to print it. But it was everywhere. I was on the websites as having the ugliest front in the world." But of course, when did the paparazzi ever listen to what celebrities had to say? This was the beginning of the spiral for her, because not long after, another photo was spread online while she was at the beach, showing another botched surgery around her stomach from a failed attempt at a body contour procedure. "My stomach became the most ripply, bulgy thing. I had a hernia, this huge bump next to my belly button. As a result, I couldn't wear a swimsuit. I lost a lot of work." The amount of pressure that these celebrities are under to look good 24/7 is intense. We're all in this together. And we're here together with you, Zac, because despite what the internet said during the time his shocking face change was revealed, Efron's reason for going under the facial procedures isn't for what you believed it to be for. It started with a photo of Efron where his jaw appeared comically wider than how it usually was before, while he was promoting Bill Nye's Earth Day musical. Zac explains he did get surgery done, but it was for a terrifying reason. 2013 was a rough year for Efron, getting involved in all sorts of physical accidents, such as tearing his ACL, dislocating his shoulder, his wrist breaking, and throwing his back out. It just so happens that this year, he decided to really play with chance and run around the house in socks before he slipped and slammed his jaw on the counter of a granite fountain. The accident completely shattered his jaw, and he was unconscious for a while before he was awoken to a not so pleasant sight. During his time rehabilitating his jaw, his master muscles, which are the ones he used to chew, began to work over time. This caused the appearance of the swollen jaw. Efron had no idea he was sparking such a storm online until his own mother called him, asking if he had gotten cosmetic surgery. Known as one of the prettiest boys of Hollywood in the early 80s, Mickey Rourke is completely unrecognizable today. This was because originally, back in the early 90s, Mickey stated in an interview that the acting industry really done it in for him over the span of 8 years. And if he had an off day, he knew that the studio owned him, and I quote, "The public owned him." He then started transitioning over to boxing instead, during the time of the interview, but sadly did more harm than good when it came to his appearance. A Hollywood reporter stated he would break his nose twice, snap his cheekbone, and damage his ribs and toes. He would be told by advisors to quit the sport or sustain potentially permanent brain damage. The first signs of the work done was in the film Wild Orchid, where his cheeks were extremely swollen, and in 2009 admitted to the work he had done because of how much boxing really messed him up. Mickey reluctantly says though, "But I went to the wrong guy to put my face back together." He would continue procedures for years, and even posting to Instagram in 2017 a selfie next to his surgeon, captioning, "Now I'm pretty again. One more to go." He's had a total of 6 operations done on him. An aesthetic doctor and hair transplant surgeon even explains to us his muscles are now in an almost permanent paralyzed state from the constant Botox. The brain learns that it's not able to move certain muscles, and you actually lose the ability to move certain areas of your face. How terrifying is that? I hate to see how Hollywood creates this false image of how getting older is something that we should be ashamed of and almost a threat to our careers. There are so many wonderful older actors that made great legacies with their name and age. In the end, I still want y'all to do what makes you happy, cause that's all we want out of life, right? Well, that's it from me for this video. If you're into celebrity gossip lore, be sure to stick around this channel by hitting that subscribe button. I'll see you very soon, my little starlets.